Good morning. If you let that shit go, you are not the stories and you are not the traumas of your past. Simply put, you are not your past. I'll say it again so it sinks in. You are not your past. You're not the mistakes that you made. You're not the betrayal that you've experienced. You're not the trauma that somebody else handed to you. And you're certainly not the story you've been telling yourself for the last 10, 20, maybe even 40 years. But here's the problem: most people are still carrying around that weight. Like it's a backpack full of bricks. And you wonder why you feel exhausted. You wonder why you feel burned out. You wonder why you feel stuck or possibly disconnected. And the reason for that is because you haven't let that shit go yet. So today we're going to talk about how your past does not define you. Unless, of course, you let it. And if you're here this morning, it's because deep down inside, you know you're capable of more, but you're still being shackled by what's behind you, your past. There's a weight of the past. Think about it. You walk into a listing presentation, but in your head, you're still hearing that voice, of maybe that parent who told you that it'd never amount to anything. You're hesitant to pick up the phone and prospect because your last business venture failed, and it still whispers here, what if you mess up again? You close deals, but you don't even celebrate because your identity is still wrapped up in maybe the pain of divorce, the pain of bankruptcy, or that childhood wound you never addressed, like so many of us. And here's the truth: your clients, they're not buying your services, they're buying your energy, they're buying your confidence, and they buy your belief in yourself. If you're carrying all that weight, you are not bringing clarity to the situation. You're bringing shadows into every room that you enter. And let me say this: it's not your fault what happened to you, but it is your responsibility to let that shit go. There's a story trap that we all fall into from, one time or another. We humans, we're storytellers, and that's beautiful. But the problem is, it's also dangerous. It's dangerous because the brain, it doesn't just want an event, it wants meaning. So when the pain hits, instead of us saying, well, that happened, what we wind up doing inside is we say, that event means I'm unworthy. It means I'm broken. It means I'm a failure. And then, without ever realizing it, you keep acting out the same damn story, even though you never auditioned for that role. So if you're here this morning, I want you to close your eyes for a moment. And I want you to think back to a moment in your life, a moment that really, really hurt. a moment that still lingers, you know, still lingers in your chest like that smoke that just won't clear out. And I want you to ask yourself, what's the story that I've been telling myself about that moment? Because that story, that meaning is what's been shaping you, not the event itself. You need to choose power over the pain. So, I mean, here's the truth: pain, it's inevitable. Trauma happens, disappointment happens, but suffering, that's a choice. And when you cling to suffering, you shrink your power, you stop living your life, and you just keep replaying in the past. So listen closely. You know, this event is not your identity. The bankruptcy, it's not your identity. Divorce, it's not your identity. Failure in business that you may have had is not your identity. Those were simply events that happened. That's all, nothing more. But they're not you. You get to decide what those events mean. Bankruptcy? Maybe it means you went big and you risked on a dream. It didn't work out, but now you know how to build stronger. Quiet. Quiet. Dogs. Sorry, I've got dogs. Quiet. Divorce. Maybe it means you refuse to settle for less than what you deserve. Failure. Maybe it means you were in that arena while everyone sat in the cheap seats. Your past, it's only defines you if you tattoo that shit onto your identity. So let's talk about the framework to let it go. So how do we do that? Come on, dogs, outside. We release the grip of the past. Let my dogs out. The first thing you need to do is you need to have awareness. You can't change what you won't face. You need to write it down. Get brutally honest with yourself. What story have you been telling yourself over and over again these years? Step 2 is you need to reframe it. Ask yourself, what else could this mean? Instead of saying I'm a failure, say to yourself, I'm relentless because I'm still here. I didn't give up. I didn't throw in the towel. Step 3 is forgiveness. Not for them, but for you. Forgiveness, it doesn't make what happened okay, but it makes you free inside. Carrying that resentment, it's like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. So step 4, nature hates a vacuum. If you let something go, you got to replace it with something. You need to create rituals, define and say what your affirmations are. Create the disciplines that root you in the present. Number 5, take action. Release, it isn't passive. You prove to yourself through action that you are no longer living that old story you keep telling yourself. And here's where the transformation happens. Some of you showed up here today with ghosts, with chains around your ankles, with stories that you've told yourself so many times, they now feel like it's the truth. But here's the reality: you're alive, you're breathing, you are capable. Think of it this way: you've survived 100% of the worst days in your life, and you're still standing. So let me ask you this morning. How much longer are you going to drag the dead body of your past into the future? How many more deals are you going to sabotage because you're afraid of the rejection? How many more moments with your kids are you going to miss because your mind is stuck in yesterday? How much more brilliance are you going to dim because you've convinced yourself that you are broken? Your past, your past is just a chapter in your life. It's not the entire book. You get to rewrite the end. Your trauma may have shaped you, but your trauma doesn't define you. Your scars, they are proof of survival, not signs of weakness. So today, right here, in this moment, I want you to make a choice. I want you to drop the bag of bricks. I want you to step into the identity of who you are becoming, not who you once were. Because the only thing heavy enough to stop you is the thing you refuse to release. So let that shit go and rise up to who you truly are. Peace.